course, I want to reward the people that are on time too. So let's kick off. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We've heard from a couple of people in the chat where you're calling in from. If you haven't already, feel free to share. Always good to know who's in the room. And we're super keen to welcome you all for this webinar with Monica and with Marianne and with Clément, my colleague here too. We're here to talk about T-Mobile skills journey, but also a little bit about how TechWolf and Workday power customers like T-Mobile, which is why Marianne is here as well. So I'll kick off for the agenda of today, which starts with a brief word of welcome by me, but then very quickly we'll go into a fireside chat with Marianne. Like Marianne, we did a podcast together already, so this will
Yeah.
be like a very brief rerun of that, just to introduce people around who you are, what your history has been with TechWolf and working with both of the solutions together. But then quite quickly we'll go into Monica's story, the skills journey we've been on together, the why, the what, the how, what's been achieved so far, all the good stuff. And throughout the entire webinar, we can take questions. I mean, we talked about this up front with Marianne and Monica. We're happy to be quite casual about how we do this. When there's a question, we are keen to prioritize that question in the chat and deal with it because it's all about transferring information to all of you. So that's really what we wanted to do here. And I'm glad to be sitting in a booth consistent with T-Mobile's branding and colors here. Um, so that's that. Just quickly, I'm Julius. I lead our customer community, so it's my job to bring stories like the story of Monica, but quite frankly, also the story of you, Marianne, of how we've worked together to all of you to inform you as you go into similar transformations. A little bit about TechWolf. We connect essentially three data sets that never live together, and that's about all we do. We're a very focused vendor on data and data quality and giving it in the hands of the enterprises we work with. And those three sources are skills, work, and market intelligence. What skills do we have we need? What work do we do, and how does AI impact it? An especially important topic these days. And market intelligence, what's happening outside of the boundaries of our own organization? How can we learn from it? How can we adapt together with that outside view? And we interpret those data sources. We draw from existing sources you have at your organization. We infer that data and we bring it together in our data layer for it to then feed whatever systems and agents you use. In this case, it's Workday, and Workday also has agentic capabilities we can feed to. So we don't want to be yet another front-end layer. We're really the back-end data layer that supports the front-end you already have. Founded 2018, located in Belgium, UK, the USA, supported by many fantastic investors, among which Workday, and then working together with a lot of cool organizations as well, among which T-Mobile and Workday itself, of course. So I won't take up any more time. The chat is your friend in this webinar, as well as the Q&A functionality should also be switched on. I always say to people, use the Q&A, but then people end up using the chat anyway. So you know what? We're flexible in this webinar, and you can unleash your questions wherever it's easiest for you. But without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Marianne, to maybe, first of all, quickly introduce yourself. And for the people who don't know you, what it is
Yeah.
that you exactly do at Workday.
Yeah. Marianne Herrmann, I've been at Workday for 4 years, and I get to think about all the ways that we can best identify and hire the right talent for the work that needs to be done. That's really been the through line of my career. I helped to design our skills-based approach to hiring, which we launched a few years ago. And now I'm thinking about end to end in our hiring process, where we can best utilize AI and then what that means for how we elevate and evolve our recruiters role to step into more, strategic talent advisory, relationship building, all those things that are uniquely human. So I just get to think about how to do hiring and how to do hiring really well and how it should evolve as our technology evolves. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Mhm.
And you've also been involved in working with us from a customer point of view, but then also working and thinking with us from a technology partnership point of view. And it's like
Yes. Hmm.
the two very distinct ways in which we collaborate with Workday. Could you tell a little bit for people that know the Skills Cloud and then people that think about TechWolf and the skills intelligence that we have, why does TechWolf partner with Workday despite the Skills
Hmm.
Cloud being there? Could you maybe clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll share my perspective. So the Skills Cloud is really this dynamic library of skills that captures the skills that your workforce either has or might need. And it serves as this foundation for any skills-based talent strategy that you might want to put into place. The way in which I think about TechWolf is TechWolf leverages AI solutions to help us answer any questions that we have about those skills. So I could list a lot of questions that might come up, but some of the questions that have come up for us are, which workers have specific skills that we need, and we want to find out quickly who has those skills, or which skills matter most for a particular job profile, and we need to define that. What are the skills that we're potentially going to need in the future? And we need to start planning for and identifying those now. So I really think, we have all of the skills, and TechWolf helps us make sense of and answer the questions that we have about those skills. Is that how you would articulate? And that's just how my experience as like the user, how I would articulate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the skills cloud is where the skills need to go, and then we help in bringing them there. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
And I think when thinking about the partnership, there's not only that element, but as I mentioned, there's also us supporting Workday in drinking their own champagne, and then also
Yeah.
being able to feed that skills intelligence and activate that across the 30,000 workmates at the organization.
Hmm.
Can you share a little bit what has been achieved in that part of the partnership? So, supporting that 30,000 person strong organization?
Yeah, there's several examples. I'll start with a few that I've been most closely involved with. The first was when we first got started on our skills journey. We knew that we had to, in order to take any sort of skill strategy or skills-based approach, we first had to identify what skills mattered most to every job profile at Workday. So we have over 1,600 job profiles. There's thousands and thousands of skills. How do you identify which skills matter most for a particular role and the work that needs to be done? To do that manually would have taken years. And it takes on average 12 to 18 months for most organizations to do that. We were able to partner with TechWolf and do this in 3 months by using, your AI intelligence and really taking our own internal market data and external market insights to essentially identify the skills that most commonly are attached to certain job profiles. So if you think of there's tens of thousands skills, we were able to narrow it down to a group of really manageable skills that most likely come up for each of our job profiles. Once we had that in place, we were then able to bring it to our business leaders and say, hey, for these job profiles within your business, here's the skills that we think might be relevant. Let's have a conversation and talk about what skills you've seen have mattered most, that most correlate to success, the ones that you feel really strongly we should be focusing on in hiring, the ones that you believe we need to be growing and developing your talent in. And that got us down to a really, really finalized, thoughtful list of skills for all of our job profiles that then really became this unlock for us to reimagine all of our talent practices. Those were the skills that we were going to focus on in hiring, but they're also the skills that we now focus on in talent development conversations. So that was example one of just really getting a clear picture of what skills mattered most for every single job profile at Workday. Um, I could share a second example if that's helpful. The second one, and again, there's many more, but these are the two that I've been most closely involved with, is the second piece was we wanted to know what skills our employees currently have. And so when a worker joins Workday, a workmate comes in, they typically will update their worker profile and add the skills that they have. And then they forget about it and they work here for 2, 3, 5 years and they're building new skills or deepening their expertise. And we don't have a clear picture of their current skill set. Actually, 76% of our worker profiles were out of date, and we needed to figure out a way to get them up to date, do it in an efficient way, but in an accurate way. That's where we were able to work with TechWolf again, where they have this AI solution that allows us to essentially observe the work that our people are doing in the places that they do their work. So places like Jira, Salesforce, their project management tools, and look at the work that they're doing and then infer the skills that they likely have based off of those tasks and those projects. It then sends to the employee, it says, hey, like we noticed you've been working on these projects and completing these tasks. And based off of that, we think you have these skills. Can you just review this list of skills and any skill that you agree with, will automatically update your worker profile with those skills. That allowed us to get up-to-date insights on our worker skills so that we know the skills that they have, and then we can make better decisions about how to leverage them, how to match them to internal opportunities, how to deploy them to certain projects that are in need of their skills, and also get a picture of what skills are missing within our organization that we might need, and then do we need to buy, borrow, or build those skills? So that was another really helpful example and a tangible way in which we're using skills data in partnership with TechWolf to start to make decisions about how we shape and plan for the future with our workforce.
Yeah, cool. We've in
Mhm.
the meantime we have a I see a bunch of questions coming in the
Oh.
Q&A already. I see Clément is typing one of them, which is great, from Danielle. Maybe one that's specifically towards you, Marianne.
Mhm.
Did you use the TechWolf console with the business to identify the skills for each job profile? What did that process look like for you, and any learnings you can share there? And for people who don't know, the TechOff console is really where the data gets managed for certain people that need to govern that data. So it's something that we provide. So feel free to speak a little to that, and I'll click answer live that we're answering it live. So yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is yes, we did. TechWolf essentially provided multiple data sets and showed us where they were getting that data from, where they were showing us our own internal skills, data trends, external market insights, which generated that initial list of the skills that initially that are most likely attached to each of our job profiles. And that was the initial snapshot of which skills were most relevant for each job profile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
And then from
And
Danielle, yeah.
nope, go ahead.
Yes, just gonna cover another question from Danielle, who is wondering, how do you keep the skills on job profiles relevant related to benchmarking? Can TechWolf flag or signal that skills on a certain profile should be updated because the benchmarking/industry is changing?
That is a great question. And in full transparency, that's something that we're solving for right now. How frequently do you do that? What are the signals that would suggest that a skill might no longer be relevant and a new skill might be emerging in that market? And I don't know, Julius, if you have more context around if there's that functionality within TechWolf, but that's actually something that I have had three conversations this past week about how do we start to do that and create a governance around that. So it's less the business coming to us saying, hey, we want to change and swap out this skill, and more us being proactive and saying, there's some signals that are suggesting we might want to add a skill or remove a skill.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
go
was
for
just
it.
gonna, I can just pipe in a little bit. We've put a governance process in place that does
Okay.
exactly that. And there
Okay.
is functionality within the TechWolf console that talks about, well, you can look at your peer or aspirational companies and where the market signals are from an emerging skill perspective. We've also put into place partnerships with compensation, um, our recruiters teams and our L&D teams, and put together kind of a skills committee, so to speak, to say, hey, what are you hearing? Are you getting a lot of requests for learning content in this space? That's a trigger. that goes into our governance process. Our hiring managers specifically looking for this. Our compensation is coming to us and saying, hey, we need AI language. And all of that stuff, we then are able to then go back and generate insights that say, hey, in this area, in this role, here are the emerging skills. We've just kicked that process off, but we're looking at kind of a quarterly cadence for
Okay.
of reviewing those triggers. And then there's going to be some areas of the business that we're going to be looking at more frequently. Also, because we're continuously bringing on new roles and we're inferring skills and adding skills to those, that is also one of the triggers that our team is looking at to say, hey, we're seeing a lot of skills in this space on our new roles that we're generating. Should we be adding those to our existing roles as well? Right. And so it's a process. It takes many great minds in it. And obviously, we're still relatively early on it, but that's how we're building it. And the benefit is that through the capabilities of TechWolf, we're able to simply, explore what those are. And
Great.
so, yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to follow up with you, Monica, because I'd love to hear more like practically how you're doing that because it's something that keeps coming up for us and we want to make sure that we have like the right approach in place. So exciting.
Yeah. Candace Simone
Yeah.
is on this call listening, I think, and
Okay.
she leads all of our governance and the partnership really with TechWolf there. So I'll definitely put you in contact with her.
Amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. Already a tangible value from this webinar. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Um, maybe one last question, Marianne, from your point of view. I mean, we'll see in the T-Mobile journey, there's a skill-based hiring element, there's opportunity marketplace element. You are very, I mean, you're quite an expert on everything skill-based hiring. Is there anything as we hand over to Monica's story that you want people to keep in mind as they listen to the story of T-Mobile leveraging TechWolf and Workday?
Yeah, I would say two things. One is you really can't build a meaningful skills-based talent strategy without first defining the skills that matter, and then also knowing the skills that you currently have. It's a simple supply-demand equation. So what skills do you currently have, and then what skills do you need? And if you can leverage a tool like TechWolf to help you quickly get that data, it's going to accelerate your ability to have that and then build any talent practice off of it. And then the second piece is, I'm sure you're going to hear this, but I would really encourage you to listen to T-Mobile's story and pay attention to the real business challenges and needs that they were facing and how they leverage skills and skills data to help identify the right solution to solve those challenges. The thing that I've been saying since I got started in this work many years ago is we don't do skills for skills' sake. We do skills to meet business needs and solve business challenges. And I think it's an amazing tool to do that. And so I would pay attention to what were the problems and challenges that they were solving for and how did skills provide a great solution or at least really helpful insights to help drive that solution and strategy.
Yeah.
Hopefully I teed you up okay.
If not, I'm sure there'll be good questions that come in.
Yeah.
We can fly.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds
No, I love it. And there's one question still on skill governance, etc. That maybe I invite Marianne or Clément to take a look at while I hand over to Monica, because I think the governance piece will return as we go through T-Mobile's journey. But if in the meantime you'd like to type an answer, I believe you can also enter the Q&A to type
Okay.
answers. But then Monica, I'll hand over to your screen, and you can share your slides to support your story.
perfect. Thank you so much. As I transition over, just quick introduction, Monica Moore. I've been leading T-Mobile's enterprise skills journey since late 2023 and have had the privilege of building a team to support this. Some of them are on this call. And so this has been a collective effort. So I want to make sure to shout out to that. But let me just pull this up and wait for you all to give me the thumbs up that it's there. Can we see it
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So just right out the gate, I think what's really important is to understand that why we started and how we started this at the end of 2023 has shifted, right? Why you would get into building a skills-based organization today, it's a different conversation than when we started. T-Mobile as a whole, it has a lot of ambitions, right? You can see here on the screen, we're really, as a leader in telco, we're beginning to shift our focus. I mean, of course, we're going to stay the top from a telco perspective, but we really want to reframe our offering to the world, really, and become that connective tissue for AI. And of course, you can't do that unless the workforce moves with you. And so we're really excited that we made that early bet in 2023 to go all in on this skills-based journey. And a journey it is for sure. In 2025, we invested in TechWolf to come on board and help us do exactly what Marianne said, which is look at our supply and our demand. And we decided to do it that at the same time. And so we built in partnership with TechWolf in less than 6 months, we were able to look at all of our T-Mobile jobs and do exactly what Marianne said, infer skills and determine what are critical for every role in T-Mobile. And so within just 3 months, we were inferring skills. We brought subject matter experts in. We leveraged, it was early days with TechWolf still doing this at scale. So we used a tool to have our subject matter experts go in and validate the skills, add new skills, identify which ones were critical. And we did that over the series, a course of about 3 months. And we're able to cover over 85%. And I'll pull up some statistics. The other piece that we did was we launched our Skills on People initiative, which was we inferred skills on 100% of T-Mobile employees. We did not restrict it. I'm pretty sure we had SVPs going, well, why am I getting notifications about these skills, right? We just didn't restrict it. We wanted to see, based off of the work being done, what are the skills and how do we get those insights quickly? And then as a result of new technology that TechWolf was building through our relationship, we were then able to really tap into that task intelligence and infer the tasks of 100% of our jobs across T-Mobile. So within a very, very short period of time, we went from spotty, unusable data to complete task intelligence, skills intelligence on our people, skills intelligence on our jobs, 100% across all of those fields. On the next slide, we'll talk about a little bit more of those details. So we have today sitting at about 74% of our jobs have validated skills on them, which means somebody who's in charge of that work has looked at those skills and validated the accuracy, the criticality of those skills, et cetera. And like I mentioned, our jobs are continuously changing. So when we started, we had about 2,500 roles. We're now sitting at almost 4,000 roles. And so it's continuously fluxing in that space, which is why we had to build a governance model. And so part of that is as new jobs are created, part of the process is for skills to be inferred and for our team to look at them and validate them. We have 84% of our headcount, though, is sitting in a role with validated skills. And that was really, really important for us before we kicked off the validation or the inference, on our people, that they could truly get the insights of the roles that they currently sit in or other roles that they've held within T-Mobile. And so we're proud of that number. It's continually growing, but our goal was 80% when we launched our skills inference on people, and we knocked that out in just one cycle. So we really targeted our high incumbent roles first. So when we were doing our inference on jobs to help us reach that. And we were successful with the partnership of our strategic advisors and our HR business partners, and of course, our subject matter experts. What's fantastic about this is we're sitting at a 78% approval rating of the skills inferred. And so that's fluctuates a little bit between our jobs and our people. You can see our our people inference is at 90%, but that gives us a really, really high confidence level of the data that we're coming in. So even on those 1,000 jobs that we haven't had subject matter experts validate, we have a 78% confidence that the skills are pretty accurate, right? And so that helps us when we're looking from a business perspective at directional insights, right? And when we're talking about workforce planning, we can look at 100% of our jobs and have a almost 80% confidence rate that it's accurate. 30% of our workforce has validated skills within Workday. So we're a team shop at T-Mobile. And so we set up and leveraged the integration with TechWolf into our teams. And so TechWolf is continuously inferring skills on our people based off of role changes, learning certifications, new education, feedback, goals, etc. And they're not constantly, but they're being prompted as new skills come up to validate those insights. And so far across the enterprise, we've seen 32%. I would say that our back office at T-Mobile is sitting more at 70% of validation. A lot of the gap there that you're seeing is with our frontline, our retail, and our care employees. And I just want to say that we didn't mandate this validation. We didn't even go big and loud about go in and you have to do this or you should do this. We literally made this a part of our year-end conversation check-ins, like, hey, here's a new resource that you can engage in to have more robust career conversations. When we launched goal setting, we did the same thing, right? This is another way in which you can gain insights of the skills you need and the skills you have as part of those conversations. So for us, this has been a very organic process to get engagement and build trust, right? Build trust with our employees that the skills data that we're inferring on them is to help their careers. And on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And yeah, we talked about that 100% coverage of task intelligence. I will say at T-Mobile, we are inferring tasks based off of our job descriptions today. And so we haven't tapped into business data, which I think is I would highly suggest it. If you're getting started on this journey, is leveraging TechWolf to infer skills and task data based off of the work being done within your system, because that's going to help build confidence within the business that this is true, right? Like, oh, you're looking at how our people are working within GitHub or Jira or Salesforce, and that's how you're inferring the skills and the task. It helps build that trust and that confidence from a change management perspective. So I would definitely suggest that. So I'll pause before I go to the next slide. Are there any questions about what we did last year in 2026 before I move on to how we're seeing that in the business today and leveraging the data?
Yes. So I'll curate a couple. I'll try to get all of them, but not always possible. There's one question around, and I see Marianne is already formulating an answer too, but what problems were you trying to solve with skills when you started? And what problems are you now trying to solve with skills? And feel free to pass this on to your second piece if it's still coming, Monica, but just wanted to ask it.
Yeah, so a little bit where we started, it was really, luckily for me, it was really about data transparency. We did not have any visibility into the skills that we needed and what we should be asking for today, and the skills that we had within the organization. And so early days, it was, hey, we just need these data insights. And then we kind of painted a picture of once we get those insights, here's the art of the possible. How does skills underpin and support our entire talent ecosystem, from strategic workforce planning to curated, customized learning in the flow of work to how we're hiring talent, right? Going in and hiring the right skills for the moment and today. There was zero structure around skills. Now, people were kind of asking for it. They understood the value of it. But my sales pitch early was pretty light because people just saw the gap But as time has progressed, as I mentioned in the very beginning, that's really shifted, right? In the age of AI, we understand the implications that are happening at every role, at every industry. And so what's really great is we now have, because we went deep quick, we now have those insights to make those informed decisions really quickly. And so that's really what we're starting to see today, both on the business side, right? From a strategic workforce planning, I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing in that space, to implementing AI-driven tools and how the skills data is feeding those tools. So I'll just click over there. Now, hopefully that answered the questions, and we'll have lots of time, hopefully, at the end of this to dive into all of this deeper. So today we have three things that are running on this skills data. So the first is we've just launched Hired Score, which is, if you're not familiar, Workday acquired Hired Score, I don't know, Marianne, a year ago, a year and a half ago. I think you're the expert on this.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
Okay, perfect. And this tool leverages AI and insights to both look at externally and internally data on candidates, right? And a big piece of that is the skills. And so it leverages a matching process based off of the skills that the candidate has and the skills the role needs. And because of the work we did in 2025 by adding the skills to all of our jobs and inferring skills on our people, we're able to really amplify this internal visibility and matching, not based off of necessarily who's applied to the role internally, but who might be the best fit for that role based off of the skills that they possess. And in an age where the roles are changing frequently, that ability to look at that skills data really is going to accelerate our visibility into our internal candidates. And so really excited about that process. We're in our pilot phase. I don't know if we have like a launch date on when that's happening yet, but we're beginning to see that matching strength happening there. The second is Opportunity Marketplace. So in Workday, they have like a talent career hub and whole ecosystem where you can leverage skills data to match yourself to future roles and build career plans. And Opportunity Marketplace is one of those spaces that allows individuals to be matched to internal projects or gigs or however you want to call them. We call them grow and stretch assignments here at T-Mobile because they're both of those, right? We want people to take the skills that they have and utilize them in new ways on other teams. But we also want them to stretch and learn new skills by going and by matching to these projects. And the skills data and in the inference of skills and having a more robust skills profile increases the opportunities that people are matched to. So you can see we're launching just here in a few weeks. We piloted this last year. We had a lot of success, a lot of great feedback, and we're really, really excited to just help people explore and grow here at T-Mobile as a result of that. So these are two ways in which, from a change management perspective, we are presenting the robustness of the skill and accuracy of individual skills data that benefits employees, right? Like this helps you advance your career here at T-Mobile in two ways. One, just through these stretch assignments to go and explore and network and do skills development if you're not quite ready to make the jump for the actual career move. But two, we're going to actually match you to opportunities here at T-Mobile based off of your unique skill set that you might not even known would have been a good fit for you in the past. So those are really beneficial, kind of that carrot, so to speak, for the employees. And the third right now is really around partnering with our HR business partners at leveraging the work intelligence to prepare them for strategic workforce planning conversations. And this has been really, really fun and interesting to, maybe I can say this or not, but we're part of TechWolf's early adopter program. And so we are able to leverage this, the task and skills data and they run all of our jobs and our tasks through a human agency scale, which maybe Julius or Clement can talk more about. But essentially it says, hey, based off of the work that's happening, should this, like what percentage of these tasks in these roles can be augmented by AI, automated by AI, are fully human, or somewhere in between? And as a result of that, when we look at our skills data, we look at the market data, we're able to come up with some really great insights to say, based off of your organizational structure, here are some recommendations on where you have opportunity, right? Where is automation opportunity? Where is augmentation opportunity? How does that change how work is getting done in your organization today? VP, SVP. Are there emerging skills or emerging roles that we're seeing with our peers and aspirational companies that we should maybe start considering? Is there a gap, right, between what we have today and what we're going to need based off of these opportunities in the future? And it just creates a starting point that's data driven, both of our T-Mobile specific internal data and the market data in the context of this that allows for deeper, more robust conversations. Okay, so that's where we're at today and leveraging some of this. Of course, we're getting all sorts of, I mean, we have a whole spreadsheet that's just solid of use cases of people asking for stuff from early in career talent. What are emerging skills that we should be recruiting for our internship programs based off of organizations? Compensation is coming and saying, hey, what are the AI skills in the market for these roles that we might need to have? And what are the impacts that we need to consider? So again, because we have this foundation, we're able to really respond to that. So, okay, that's a lot of talking. I'll pause and see what questions we can have on this before we talk about kind of the next slides.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one from Craig that I think is good to pick out. And the question is, what are the biggest signals that you have acted on from this data? And maybe if this gets if you tackle this beyond this slide, also good to cover later, but it points to what do you do with the data? What are the biggest signals that have shown you there's something to act on here?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I would say, in all transparency, it's still being leveraged as an input and an insight. We haven't, I would say, call the team in 3 months once strategic workforce planning is underway and some decisions are made by leaders. But today, the team is really acting as this, hey, here are the insights. Some of the activations that are in play, I guess, are really around learning and development, mapping skills to learning content to generate learning that's more relevant to the individual. So we're seeing that being activated, and we're definitely seeing space for, sorry, we're popping up over here, getting beeped. We're in the compensation and the job and the recruiting space, leveraging the skills insights for the hiring process and sourcing process. So I would say that learning and development and recruiting is where the skills data is currently being used to drive outcomes, and some of the strategic workforce planning and more impactful business decisions should hopefully be realized in the coming months. So still a little early. Hopefully that answered your question, Craig.
Awesome. Maybe, yeah, Marianne, you want to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say one of the ways that we've been able to begin to use skills data is when we start to hire, especially for high volume roles against the same set of skills, once they've been in role for a while, we can then start to analyze and correlate who are our top performers and what trends did we see when we hired them. So are there certain skills that they really excelled in? That might be a signal to us that we should pay more attention to those skills, and maybe focus more on them in hiring. Are there certain skills that our bottom performers maybe didn't perform as well in? And those are skills that are also critical. And so it helps us to evolve and shape our hiring model and know which skills to maybe focus more or less on. So that's just one data point. And then I think, back to what Monica was sharing, it really does help to inform and elevate hired scores overall performance by knowing what skills matter most, integrating those into the job description. Hired Score uses the job description as its source of truth. So when it's looking for candidates, it's looking for whatever you've laid out in that job description. So if you've captured those skills in your job description, it's going to scan all resumes and applications for evidence, not just word to word matches, but semantic similarities. And it knows how to identify similar types of words that are similar to those skills. So those have been two ways that we've leveraged that data in practical ways.
Yeah, very cool. Let's maybe continue with the story, and then other questions we'll return to later.
Yeah, and then I would say, it's also just speed at which we're able to get these insights. When I first started this journey, we did a skills pilot where we brought in a consultant to look at our IT and work with subject matter experts to identify critical skills that were going to be important for IT. It took like 12 weeks, a lot of money, a lot of people's times at looking at skills, right, to then come up with a potential recommendation of what learning could be. And now we're able to do that literally by the click of a button in partnership with TechWolf. We're able to gain those insights as a result of this so quick so that the business can move much, much faster in saying, oh, we need to invest in this. Oh, there's a skills gap here. Oh, here's an emerging skill that we don't have. Do we need to buy for this? So that is also where we're seeing real benefits of this data is the accessibility. It's not only a time saver, it's a money saver. It's like I said here with some of these examples, we're really, really able to gain those insights that we used to have to outsource, and that would take weeks, months, time, contracts with external consultants, etc. We now all have the power of that at our fingertips, which granted, a lot of people, and I'll just say this out here because some of you might be thinking of this, is like, why can't I just use Claude to give me these insights, right? I don't know. I'm sure TechWolf has been hearing this a lot. But the reality is Claude might look at, external data, but the proprietary AI that TechWolf has to infer skills on T-Mobile data, our people, how we work, what our specific jobs are, that's not public, right? Yes, we might have some vacancies that the Claude might be able to look at out there, but this is internal data that is continuously being updated and realized. And so I think that that's also really important that, yes, we want to use these AI tools, and trust me, I use Claude to take TechWolf data and help do storytelling with it, for example, or help meet with other aspects of the business that TechWolf doesn't have access to, other data points that we might want to look at, geolocation or demographics, etc., right? When we're building the strategic workforce plans. But this is a key moment, I think, to talk about how the internal data that TechWolf is inferring continuously is helping us get there. And then last but not least, this kind of comes down to the governance around these signals that we're watching. How are people engaging with the inferred data? How is our internal mobility rate increasing or improving? To what Marianne said is like, it's not just about getting people in the jobs, it's how well are they doing once they're there, right? Did the skills that we say we need translate to faster output, quicker delivery, better customer service, et cetera, right? So really looking beyond that, and it's going to take us time to measure that. How is the data that we're providing translating once our HRBPs go and have these conversations with our executives in the business, right? Is it helping them develop more effective strategic workforce plans, right? Are the insights helping leaders think differently about the work in their shop, right? Those are indicators that we want to keep watching. And then obviously opportunity marketplace. Are people, having great experiences as they're stretching and growing here at T-Mobile through this work? Are the host managers not only getting great people in, but then delivering projects on the on the other side of those opportunities quicker, et cetera? And then kind of looking ahead is like, where do we go next with this, right? This is a journey, and so one of the things is, data quality, right? So we talk about, it's been my experience whenever I walk into a room and talk about skills, I can say, here are all the skills that you didn't know you have. The very next question is, but how good are those skills? Right? And while we have never measured proficiencies before until this moment, now that we're at this moment, we have to start looking at that quality of the skill, right? That's going to help us build confidence with our hiring managers, with our leaders when they're making those redeployment decisions based off of skills, et cetera. So we're starting to explore that AI displacement modeling at the role level, right? Where is AI changing the work? How does that change how we do the work? What are our processes? What are the team builds up? How do we want to do that? Learning skills at scale, right? What is the gap? What are the skills Monica has today? What are the skills I need for my future role? And have learning feed that to me and tell me that that's happening without me having to think about it, right? And getting prompted and really having that be in the flow. And then these business intelligence, as I mentioned before, today, T-Mobile is looking at primarily HR data and learning data with TechWolf. The next step is really embedding that intelligence into key systems that drive true business outcomes so that we can get and gain these insights of our people more quickly. So that's kind of what we're looking at for the future to unlock. But as you can see, just in the signals watching, there's still a lot of moving parts there. So yeah, so I think that that's our story. I didn't dive too much into governance, but I'm happy to dive more into that process if there's more questions about it.
Yeah, and thanks so much, Monica, for sharing that. Amazing to see the story unfold here in this presentation. I was going to ask you about lessons learned as well, but maybe there's a question in the Q&A that segues a little bit to that, and it's from Kath Taylor, and she's wondering, can you talk us through how you influence key stakeholders to get on board with the vision and the journey? Do you have decision-making authority, or is your role about storytelling and influencing?
A little bit of both. So in the early days, you definitely need alignment. I think that in this moment in time, to be honest, it's less about skills and it's more about task intelligence and AI and the future of work and how work gets done. Skills is an enabler of that, right? And so without the skills data, you can determine maybe at a task level how work needs to be done. But if you don't know what skills your people have or the skills needed for that, right, then that transformation is going to take longer, right? So really the skills becomes an enabler of that. And so I think when you're influencing and doing storytelling, it's really looking at what is most important to your business today, what is top of mind for them, and then luckily with TechWolf, right, it's the whole package. It's the work intelligence piece, the AI impact on the roles, the role redesign piece that's then supported and enabled by skills and the skills intelligence. And you get that in one package versus multiple vendors. So I think that that's part of it. The partnership with Workday, right? The full integration. Not only is Workday utilizing them in like their partnership and the integration ease of all of those where skills once they're validated, flow back to the worker profile, et cetera. They're utilizing them themselves to infer skills on their workers and build their task intelligence and future of work too. So if you're a Workday shop, there's that synergy there. And I know that there's a lot of partnerships that TechWolf has to realize that. But so from an influencing, that's where I would start today. If I was starting today, that's where I would start. And then from a decision making, I would say that in order to do this at scale and quickly, there's about 1,000 decisions that have to be made when it comes to number of skills on profiles, like how many are you going to infer, and really making sure that the person that's leading it, once they have leadership alignment, can just make those decisions, right? Because if you have to go through a steerco for every decision, you'll never get it off the ground because there's literally thousands of decisions that have to be made. So you need to be empowered to do both, in my opinion. And Marianne, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say a very practical example of how we got started is we essentially found a place in the business, which was our global revenue team. They knew that they had to hire 500 new account executives, save space. They weren't really happy with their current account executives. And so they just thought we have to figure out a better way to identify and bring in the best talent because this is going to be important. So they were invested in solving for how they hire. We brought in, hey, how about skills be a solution? Let's get really crystal clear on the skills that matter most at the point of hire. Let's design a hiring process around it. And we ran it, and they saw that, hiring was going quicker because they were really clear on what they were assessing for, and they weren't always rethinking that every time they went to hire. And they were getting better evidence to make more confident decisions. And then after a year of running it, they saw that these people that we hired were closing their first deals at a 14% faster rate. And so we were able to share that story with the rest of the business to say, what might this look like in your business? Like, where are you struggling to identify and hire the right talent, and how might we take a similar approach? So I think finding someone that has a problem that skills can solve, running that pilot, and then showing to the rest of the leaders this was the impact of it, can also be a really great strategy. And it's like, don't boil the ocean, find a place within your organization where you can get started. And then that usually creates some momentum where it allows you to open some more doors and do it in, move into other places. So,
Yeah. I've heard this time and time again in interviews too. Like it's about looking for when in the sales moments, it's about looking for the heat of the moment and then also
mhm.
being agile enough to shift if it turns out that that use case that was central is now not anymore. Like that also
Yeah,
happens, right?
yeah.
So super, super useful. There's a few questions on skill assessments that popped up. I'm going to bundle two together. So one was from Jennifer Mitchell on how are you approaching skills assessments? To you, Monica, was a question, and also around competency levels. And then the other one was also around assessments. How do you do it? Is it formal, or do you rely on employees to validate the skills from the inferred skills? And also, do you have skill proficiency? So, like, very, very similar questions, bundling them together.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you guys where we're at today. So we made the decision because we were going to the entire enterprise to from the skills inference perspective, have it be employee validated or confirmed, right? And so we did not include manager validation, although TechWolf does have the capability to add that into the process, because we just wanted to say, okay, let's just get as much data as we can out the gate to help with some of these key initiatives, hired score, opportunity marketplace. And then as those kick off, we anticipate, and I could be wrong here, that the skills profiles will be cleaned up a little bit because people are going to start looking at their skills as their opportunity for their next role, their opportunity to be selected. And so they're going to start refining those a little bit. From a proficiency perspective, we have proficiencies at T-Mobile, 5 levels, but we haven't implemented that in this skills work yet. We're in conversations with our L&D team to look at our LMX and say, hey, do we activate proficiencies? We probably need to get there. The team is starting to explore assessments. I would say that the decision to do assessments for every skill off the table. There's going to be some critical skills that are needed for the business that
Same.
we will target, right? And say,
Yeah.
okay, we need those. And that's the same with proficiency, right? Like there's certain skills that the proficiency matters for the work
Mhm.
to be done and from a hiring perspective. But like, I don't need to have a proficiency on whether I can do active listening, or communication, or, how do you do a proficiency level on strategic thinking, for example, right? Those are things that have to be demonstrated to build that confidence. And so it's a little bit messy. I think that this is a question that comes up in my network a lot. I just had a networking call with a group as we all start to explore it. I think that there's some formal ways in Workday where you can activate proficiency. So we're beginning to look at that just now. Marianne,
Yeah,
where you're at with
yeah,
that.
I was gonna say we have done a very similar journey where we tried to do the full-blown skill assessment where the individual assessed themselves against all 10 to 12 and then the manager did, and it was a lot of work. And we did get some good data. It was actually very interesting. So I'm not saying it wasn't, we did get some juice from the squeeze. But what we're starting to lean more towards is let's focus on the proficiency for the skills that matter the most, similar to what you were saying, Monica. So, like when we're check in and we're talking about your upcoming priorities, what skills are going to be most critical for you to be successful in the next 3 to 6 months? Where are you currently standing in terms of like your current proficiency level in those skills? And if you were to prioritize growing in one or two of those skills, which one would most likely increase your chances of doing even greater work? And so skills now become a tool and a language for our employees to do better work, to perform better. And so they get invested in the skills in that way. But we've gone back and forth in terms of, yes, ideally we would have all of this skills data, but it's a massive investment, especially for our people leaders who are assessing multiple direct reports. There's also a theory that, if someone is at a certain role level, they likely have this proficiency level. And so do we actually need to assess every single skill? Maybe we, to your point, isolate a few skills that seem to be most critical for this moment or for the work that's going to be done. So I think there's a lot of ways that you can approach it. It's a balance of wanting to get good data, but also wanting to not burn your people out. So, yeah.
Yeah. And as we head into the final few minutes, I want to first of all say people who still had open questions, and some of you, apologies if I didn't cover it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I saw a couple of you did that already, or to Monica or to Marianne, and we will also work with the three of us to answer the questions that were still outstanding. Like this is something I really want to respect. But maybe a send home message from both you, Monica and Marianne. We talked about many things, the zoomed out perspective, the zoom in perspective, very specific questions on how many skills per job profile, to very strategic questions on what do you tackle and how do you not boil the ocean. But what people returning to their desks this week and getting started on this work, what would you advise them as like a lesson learned that you want to extend as they continue on this work? Either one of you can start.
I can jump in. I feel like I already shared mine, which is essentially find a problem within your business that a leader really cares about. You're going to immediately get their investment and partner with them to leverage skills to be a part of that solution. And then that becomes, there's energy around it. You can then share that story with others. You can learn in a sort of safe, contained space, not globally. And so that's always my recommendation is to start small.
Monica?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I'm like, oh, go all in because then you can leverage the data on the other side much faster. But it is true. Like, look for something ambitious. You know what aspirational goals your leaders have, and there's a big community out there. And I think some of it is that stakeholder management and talking about the art of the possible, right? There's enough people doing this now where you can then say, hey, so and so company is doing this and this is how they're realizing value. So if we're not there yet, you can start utilizing those. But just get started. Don't wait. The pace in which change is happening, if you wait any longer to start diving into the skills intelligence, you'll miss the wave, the AI wave, and we don't want any of your amazing companies to do that. So that's just my perspective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, thanks to all two of you, to you, Monica, to you, Marianne, to my colleague as well, who unfortunately had to leave to the next call already, Clément, and to all of you for the many questions. I love webinars like these, and again, if we have some more to answer, we will do so. So thanks for joining again, and see you at the next one.
Thanks, Julius.
Thanks,
Appreciate you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
Marianne.
everyone.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.